we are on to the final workshop in this presentation. This is section 3, Beyond the 10 Commandments. We're just going to go through a few additional bits and pieces and details about this job. As you've been going through this presentation, hopefully you've written down any questions, and we'll do our best to answer them when we review this presentation with you. All right, section 3-1, tour preparation. This is on page 42 of the manual. So to be a successful expedition leader and to have a smooth, stress-free day on tour, we like to say that there are 6 critical keywords: prepare, 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 and safety, safety, safety. We can't emphasize this enough. All the very best tour guides and all the new expedition leaders who really got off to a successful start really understood the value of preparation. The better prepared you are, the better a day you're going to have. And this is true for new guides, new expedition leaders, as well as experienced expedition leaders. When you take that time the day before to really analyze all your information, your pickup list, know what your tour is, and be ready, that's going to pay off in terms of the experience you have and your passengers have on the next day, which ultimately leads to a successful tour. So with that in mind, the day before your tour, have a look, download or print if you like to print your list, but definitely have a good look at the pickup list for the next day, looking for all sorts of things. Make sure that it's accurate. All the information that should be on there is on there. The correct number of passengers are on there. Looking at your list properly can really give you an opportunity not only to prepare for the day, but to see if anything stands out as a potential problem. And so just look through, you'll get to know what you're looking for. You want to check your total passenger count, see if you're doing a Yosemite tour, even a Woods and Wine tour, how many people you have going up versus coming back. Sometimes you're going to have overnighters. You can often also spot, when you're checking your list, you might spot a few pickups that can be problematic. And sometimes having a look at that list, noting a couple pickups that, if altered just a little bit, might really smooth out your pickup process. And so I think I've also mentioned this in previous slides, but you can enlist the reservations office in assisting you to move around 1 or 2 pickups on any given day if you think it's going to really improve the scheduled pickups. An example of that might be that you might have a 5:50 pickup in South of Market. You might have another 5:50 pickup at around Japantown, and you might have a 5:55 pickup on Lombard Street. And just those 3 pickups can really throw you off. So you might call the reservations office when you notice that and see if they can move maybe your first pickup a little bit earlier or something like that. So be cognizant of the fact that that can happen, and looking for that sort of stuff really helps. Yeah, and just generally also check your pickup times, make sure that they do make sense. They should make sense, but on occasion they don't. Call the reservations office if you have any questions. If there's a location that you're not familiar with, a hotel you've never been to or something, this gives you an opportunity to check it out. Go online, check Google Maps or something, see where it is, see how it fits into your pickup list and your schedule. And one thing I like to point out particularly to new expedition leaders, when I am planning my pickups for the next day, particularly when you're in a bus. In vans, pickups are less challenging. In buses, they can, as you'll get to know, they get pretty challenging. I really like to think through my route. And so when I first get that list the day before, after I've checked it for accuracy and started looking through, picking issues out, I also just visualize my route and each hotel along the route. And once I know that route in my head, it really helps me the morning of to get to my pickups quickly. So that's something that helps me. One other consideration is your seat placement. This is important in vans, but it can also be important in buses, especially if those buses are full. Look at the party sizes of your groups, because you may need to do some arranging or rearranging of people to try to keep people well placed. It's always frustrating when the last one or two parties that get into your vehicle, if they're a couple and they get split up, one's in the front and one's in the back of the vehicle. So whatever you can do preemptively to sort of mitigate that and work with other passengers to make sure that the seating is working for everyone, that's going to be beneficial to you and your passengers, and that's going to create a good experience. We've just talked about this. Collect your cash or vouchers if necessary. Know who needs to pay you and how much you need to collect. And then go check weather online, particularly for Yosemite. It's good to be able to give your passengers a weather report when you start your tour, but also it's going to help you understand what kind of a day you're going to have. So check your weather status, and then most importantly, perhaps get a good night's sleep. So before I move on to this next slide, just an addendum to the previous slide. In terms of the seating of passengers, one thing I didn't mention that I'd like to mention is that you shouldn't be afraid to ask passengers to move around a little bit. Once you've got everybody on board, or even preemptively, to pay attention to the special needs of passengers, whether they're elderly passengers or handicapped passengers, couples that want to stay together. It's your responsibility as the expedition leader to try to get everyone seated comfortably and making them happy. And that can be a challenge, but do your best to do that, and don't be afraid to ask people to move around a little bit. So with that, let's talk more about tour preparation, specifically timeliness. Punctuality is incredibly important in this job. It's important in any job, but in this job, if you're not on time, you've got a whole bunch of people standing in front of hotels, sometimes in the cold and the rain, waiting on you. And so timeliness, punctuality is excessively important. And so we like to apply the rule that if you are on time, that means you're actually 15 minutes late. We want to be early for everything. So beyond just being well rested and getting a good night's sleep, make sure to start early. Get to our warehouse at least 30 minutes prior to your first pickup, so that you have ample time to find your vehicle, do a proper vehicle inspection, check the cleanliness of that vehicle, and clean as appropriate. We've talked about what the responsibilities are for expedition leaders in terms of cleaning. And then get to your first pickup on time, which again means 5 minutes early. Talked about this before, but getting to that very first pickup a little bit early can be the best thing you will do all day. If those passengers happen to be early, then you get a jump start on your tour. If they're right on time, at least they're getting out and getting to your next pickup. And if they happen to be late, if you're there right on time, you will know instantly that they're not there, and you can quickly get the reservations office into action, get the clock ticking so that you can move on as quickly as possible to your next pickup. So timeliness, incredibly important, and we take it very seriously when we ask you to be at the warehouse a minimum of 30 minutes prior to your first pickup. We mean it, and that's something that we do audit and check because it's so important to the success of our tours. And when you do this, when you're on time, it's going to create a lot less stress for you. You're going to feel better, and you're going to your passengers are going to be happier. You're going to be on time. Everything is going to go better. So it's the absolute best way to start your day well, and keep yourself and your passengers at ease and happier. All right, still continuing with tour preparation, specifically for a Muir Woods and Wine Country tour or any other tour that picks up from 7:45 a.m. to 9 a.m. So essentially every tour but Yosemite, you're expected to leave more time in the morning for sweeping and cleaning your van or bus, and washing or vacuuming. Again, we've talked about the specifics of cleaning, but you want to leave a little extra time on those days. And keep in mind that being early on these days can be even more important than on the Yosemite tour, just given that your pickups are taking place during rush hour. And so the more of a jump start you can get on your day, the better. And so you should absolutely arrive between 7 a.m. and 7:15 if you have an 8 a.m. pickup, and even earlier if your pickups are a little bit earlier. So it's not an option to show up too late to be able to inspect, clean, or vacuum the vehicle prior to getting to your pickup on time. If that happens, that's something we take pretty seriously because it has such a dramatic impact on the tour experience. Thanks. All right, let's talk about creating a tour experience. This is on page 43, section 3-2, labeled Great Tours Are Like Painting a Mural. It amazes me that some tour guides or expedition leaders will not, at the beginning of every tour, talk to their guests and set the stage for what the day is going to be about. I think this is one of the most important things you can do to create an incredible experience for your passengers. And essentially, every single day that you're going out on tour, you are basically curating or producing a tour experience. And it's going to have everything to do with how well you set it up and deliver it. It has to do with you as an expedition leader, the presentation you do and how you manage the group, but it's also going to have to do with how those passengers get along and the experience they have together. And the expedition leaders that stand out and really do their jobs well and therefore earn a really good living are the ones that fully understand this part of the job and really over time get very good at creating this incredible experience through humor, through good information, through setting correct expectations, and through leading passengers on an incredible experience. So, to me, the best way to start that is to paint the picture right from the very beginning. And if you envision that if you've picked up all your passengers and they're sitting on your vehicle, they want to know something. Before you just start driving out of town or driving around town, they want to know what's going on. Don't just get going. Stop, take a moment, face your passengers. And so the way I like to do this, once I've collected all my passengers for a given tour, I stop at my last stop. I make sure I've got my correct passenger count, so I know I have exactly the correct number of people and I've made all my pickups. I will call into the reservations office to check in, let them know that I've got all my passengers so that I get cleared to leave. Again, that's really important. And once I've done that, I turn and face my passengers. If I'm in a bus, I'll stand up and get up and just introduce myself. Typically, I'm introducing myself as I'm picking them up, but I like to introduce myself again and give them a quick sense of what is to come. Specifically, I like to tell them the itinerary of the tour. I like to greet them, welcome them, tell them what's in store for them on the tour, give them the itinerary, what time they would expect to be back, what the weather will likely be. If you can, get to know a little bit about them quickly so that they start to get to know each other. The more they bond with each other, the better their experience is going to be. So find out their names and answer any questions, etc. You really want to let them know what this day is going to be about. And then so each time you make a stop and you get your passengers back on board, you want to do a quick reorientation. Say, okay, next up we're going here, and etc. So that you keep them on track. Again, you're going to put your passengers at ease and make them feel comfortable by doing this, and I think it's incredibly important, and it makes them feel as though you're a professional when right from the very beginning you were setting their expectations. So keep that in mind. In addition, so obviously you're going to get to know the commentary, the history, the story that you're going to tell, and the better you get to know that story, the better experience you're going to have. So that will come with time, but once you sort of laid this, once you've sort of created this outline of the day, then you can start to, over the course of the day, fill in the blanks with all that specific detailed information and really build this experience over time. So keep that in mind and remember the experience that your passengers have, this mural that you paint, is where your talent really begins to shine through, and that's what's going to set you apart from other expedition leaders and really turn you into a professional expedition leader. Section 3-3. This is in fact the last section in this presentation. This is karma, tipping, and why we do this. Obviously a big chunk of what you earn as an expedition leader comes to you in the form of tips or gratuities, and each expedition leader is going to have their own unique approach to motivating their passengers to reward them for a good experience. We try to keep very tactful signs in all the vehicles that talk about tipping in a diplomatic way. If ever you notice that a vehicle doesn't have that sign in it, please let us know. Beyond that, we have some policies as it relates to tipping. We want you to earn tips, but we don't want you to be pushy about getting tips. And there's a fine line here that's difficult to define. So fundamentally, while it's normal to assume that most of your passengers will reward you in the form of a tip, they're not required to, and you need to understand that they are absolutely not required to. Even if they had a fantastic day and really enjoyed everything, they can still choose not to tip you. That's the nature of tipping. Your number one method of earning good tips should be focusing on delivering a good tour. A well-presented tour, a professional guide, someone who attends to details and takes time to connect with their passengers and really creates a very exceptional tour experience is going to be rewarded with good tips. Beyond that, and the signs in the vehicles, we have binders that have a little mention of tipping at the back. You can pass that around. We are okay with our drivers mentioning the tipping, that tipping is part of common practice. We want to be sure that you're doing it very tactfully, very diplomatically, and that you're never pressuring your passengers. You're never being specific about how much they should tip you. So it's okay to make a mention of tipping as long as it's done tactfully, and we want you to only do that once, and we absolutely never want to hear from any of our passengers that they were made to feel uncomfortable or pressured or told a specific amount of money to tip. That would be over the line, and that would be grounds for disciplinary action. So keep that in mind. At the end of the manual on page 45, there's a pretty detailed description of what we're talking about here. You can also talk to some of the drivers about what they say specifically in their request for tips. Some drivers have spent a lot of time crafting a message that's both diplomatic and gets to the point. So just keep that all in mind, and that is pretty much it for this presentation. Remember that as you've gone through this presentation, you should have had the manual, the document in front of you, and not every little thing in the document was in this presentation, so we do want you to know everything in the Expedition Leader's Manual, all the policies, procedures, details. This is really, knowing everything in this document is really what's going to set you up for success in the job. And once you've completed this presentation and gone through the manual, the final page, page 46, is just an acknowledgement that you've received the Expedition Leader's Manual. So we'll ask you to fill that out and sign it so that we know that you've familiarized yourself with everything in this document. And so thank you for taking the time to go through this presentation, and we're excited to bring you on board as an expedition leader at Astronomical Tours. Thanks.